Good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year to you. I am back. I want to apologize for the fact that we had to cancel 2 sessions of our dissertation module. I was very, very ill and spent several weeks at the hospital. Now I'm trying to come back, and we decided together with Miguel that for the 2 sessions that we cancelled, I'm gonna produce 2 short videos giving you a little bit of input about what I think, what the main issues or main points of the texts that we had to read for today or for December are. So in this video I wanna talk a little bit very shortly about the session about discourse and migration. And so first of all, what is important is that this is another session, or these texts, the 3 texts that you had to read, the text by Corey Allen and Bonnie McLinney, the text by Jan Blammert, and my text, are again about looking at how discourse contributes to the making of the social order, right? In particular, it's about looking at how discourse contributes to the management of migration. So usually when in applied linguistics, people look at migration, language and migration, what happens is that we look at the language competencies of speakers, of migrant speakers. We look at how they speak. Sometimes we look at how they structure their speech. But what these 3 texts have in common is to look at the complex dynamics and systems that regulate and structure migration, and how discourse plays a role in the structuring and management of migration. So what we do is what we call decentering migration. So we don't look at the migrant, him or herself, because we don't believe that there is something like a migrant, but we rather understand migrants as a political category. So again, the point is, what are the complex systems that shape this idea that there are migrants and non-migrants, and then different type of migrants, and what is the role of discourse in this, right? So what we have, I think, is in the 3 texts. So of course it's 3 different texts, right? The first text by Corey Allen and Bonnie McLinney is much more, it's a general, it's an overview of the literature on language and neoliberalism and migration. But I think and then the second text is a more ethnographic text. So my text is more an ethnographic text, looking at different sites in Italy and looking at how language contributes to the regulation of migration. And then we have Jan Blammert's text, that presents a case study of how in Europe the asylum seeking process is managed from the perspective of the state. Okay, so I think in these 3 cases, while the texts are really different, I think that there are things that we can put together. So make links between the texts, and so if we look at the role of discourse, the role that discourse plays in these 3 texts, I think that we can see links. So the first role that discourse plays in the 3 texts is that discourse is a form of resource that individuals invest in order to be seen as specific personae, as specific types of citizens, as specific types of workers, and since specific modes of speaking and producing text, both written and oral, is associated to specific types of people with specific positions in social structures. People try to invest in specific modes of speech to climb the social ladder, right? So, for example, migrants, or what we call migrants, are, this is shown very well in Corey Allen's text and Bonnie McLean's text. So migrants are asked to acquire a specific language in order to become citizens, right? To become good workers, right? So discourse is appropriated and invested in by individuals in order to become or be seen as specific individuals, right? You have something similar in Jan Blommaert's text, where actually the refugee is asked to perform a specific persona, a specific multilingual persona, in order to be seen as somebody in need of protection, right? So a specific type of citizen, right? Yes. Then the second role that discourse plays is that it allows to control people's emotions and bodies. So this becomes very, very clear in my text, where on the one hand, people are asked to enact or engage with specific discursive practices in order to take control over their bodies, and as well take control over their anxieties, right? And in the same time, we have these kind of NGO workers who are asked to produce a specific discourse about migrants in order to kind of contribute to the kind of to a sort of tranquilization, if you want, of society. Discourses as well, and especially written bureaucratic discourse, is also used as a form, as a resource in order to kind of make sure that migrants don't resist their own their situation of social and economic precarity. So, for example, in that case in which I show that the police officers were asked to produce a specific text certifying that after their deportation, the migrants would be able to live in a similar situation, in similar living conditions like as before. That piece of written discourse was produced in order to kind of exert control over migrants' anxieties and control their behavior, or actually provoke a specific behavior, namely that they would accept to leave their the place where they were living. So discourse here is a semiotic resource that is produced in order to exert control over someone's body, someone's emotions, someone's anxieties in them, and we have similar cases in Bonnie McElhinney's and Corey Allen's work. So in the first case, discourse is a means to perform, a specific persona, a specific type of citizen, a specific type of worker, right? We have that in the case of the Philippines, where nurses and nannies are asked to engage with a specific multilingual, or to invest in a specific multilingual repertoire in order to be seen as good workers. We have that in the case of Jan Blommaert. In the second case, it's about exerting control over people's emotions and bodies, regulating their conduct. We call that as well governmentality. And then there is a third. Is there a third? Yeah. So there is a third dimension, and that becomes very clear, especially in Jan Blommaert's text, in which, as we have seen in past, discourse is produced to produce a specific image or a specific form of knowledge about specific people, right? So while on the one hand, the refugee himself produces a specific set of discourses in order to convince the state officers and the police officers that he is in need of protection, the state officers themselves produce a whole set of discursive practices in order to construct him as a legitimate asylum seeker, or in that case, as a non-legitimate asylum seeker. So I think what is important here is that discourse becomes a key tool for the management of migration, and it has different roles, and it is invested in by different people, right? In order to make this machinery work, or what we sometimes call as well the infrastructure of migration work. So this is a whole machinery that is composed of state offices, NGOs, schools, hospitals, and other spaces that contribute to the regulation of migration and that make that specific life trajectories take specific forms instead of others, right? And discourse plays a key role in the management of this. And I think these three texts were very concrete texts and allow you to see how at different levels, at the policy level, in the everyday work of NGO workers, in the everyday work of state officers and police officers, discourse is used to do different things. And yeah, what is important as well in these three texts that we have read, that you have read on discourse and migration, is that the three texts, and especially the text by Corey Allen and Bonnie McGillivray, force us to understand the management of migration through discourse within a larger societal frame. So it's clear that if we want to look at how discourse contributes to the shaping and structuring of migration, we need to think about history, we need to think about political economy, we need to look at how societies are ruled, we need to look at the principles that are put in place in order to shape and organize societies, and that we need to make this link between what we see on the ground, between a policy text, between a discursive practice, the practices of NGO workers, and the larger society and the larger political economy. So we always need to make this kind of back and forth between these two dimensions. And it's not sufficient to just look at the interactional order, like as Goffman is suggesting, or at looking at the here and now, right? So this is what these three texts are suggesting. What we call context needs to be massively expanded, because what happens in the here and now is kind of in interaction with larger processes that are not here, and that in a way regulate and structure what is going on the ground, right? So they force us to really expand our understanding and make links to with more societal and historical dimensions of migration and the management of migration. Okay, this is what I wanted to say about the three texts. So if you have questions about the three texts, you can still send them to me. You have another week to submit your papers. I'm gonna upload this video, and I'm gonna upload another video about the next topic. And I am aware of the fact that I couldn't now elaborate on each text and come up with examples. But I hope I have communicated the main messages, the main ideas of the three texts, and the links and how discourse operates within the larger management of migration. Okay, bye-bye.